In a world where the use of AI and technology is on the rise, the sale of our personal data is also becoming more common. This issue affects various sectors, from our homes to our healthcare, which brings us to health tech's issue, introducing privacy, anonymity, and retraceability to their large language model, Metassist. We're the Breakfast Buddies.
Hi, my name is Jiya Nandrey, and I'm a sophomore at the Kelley School of Business studying finance and accounting.
My name is Jorge Duggar. I'm a sophomore from Fairfax, Virginia, and I'm studying finance, accounting, and international business. So let's briefly go over our table of contents before we begin. We've just introduced ourselves, but now we'll introduce our solution. Then we'll go into the three main points of our solution, go into a little bit more detail about what those entail, then we'll do a recap, a future outlook, and we'll conclude. So without further ado, our solution, the restructure of Metassist. Why do we want to restructure Metassist? Well, it's because we want to make a solution that's comprehensive, that addresses core issues, that has immediate impact, and that has a future-oriented focus. Comprehensive in the sense that it ensures that ethics aren't just an add-on, but are integrated into every aspect of the framework. Addressing core issues in the sense that we want to directly tackle challenges by emphasizing the need to rework current practices or create new ones in order to foster a more robust solution. We want to see immediate impact in the sense that this should enable rapid, visible changes to foster stakeholder trust, demonstrating health tech solutions to commitment to ethics through immediate, aligned actions. And finally, it should have a future-oriented focus in which we will workshop a solid foundation which will enhance long-term viability and its reputation, positioning this company as an industry leader and setting industry standards. So, our solution will be structured, or our explanation of our solution will be structured in this way, following the Maslow hierarchy of needs, where you can't move on to the higher need without first addressing the base need. So what does this mean? This means that if we introduce a piece of our solution, for example, guiding principles, which we'll see in a moment, we first need to address the basics of guiding principles before we move into the finer details of guiding principles, and then finally addressing the nitty-gritty. But you can't have the nitty-gritty without the details or without having the foundation. So this is our GFS protocol, where our solution will be built into guiding principles, fairness and innovation, and a shield of confidentiality. I'll pass it off to Jiya so she can explain a little bit more about what this means.
Awesome, thanks, Jorge. So we were particularly inspired by CROWE's approach, which emphasized the critical role of governance in driving ethical AI practices. Drawing from this, we recognize that a formal internal AI governance framework must serve as the foundation of our solution. So this framework not only establishes clear protocols for stakeholders, but also embeds accountability, ethical responsibility, and transparency into every decision-making process. By aligning governance with health tech's broader mission, we ensure that Metassist will be designed, developed, and deployed in a way that prioritizes morality, mitigates risk, and fosters trust with all relevant parties. To ensure the high standard of ethical AI use, membership on the AI Governance Council would require certification created by Health Tech Solutions. This certification process would ensure that council members possess the necessary expertise to oversee Metassist responsibly and make informed decisions regarding AI governance. Additionally, any employee who actively uses Metassist for diagnoses must obtain the certification as well, which would focus on understanding AI biases, data protection, and the ethical implications of AI in clinical decision-making. By requiring these certifications, we guarantee that both the governing body and Metassist users are fully equipped to manage Metassist responsibly, thereby ensuring patient safety, data security, and trust. Once trained, the Council's duties would include auditing Metassist development processes, addressing potential biases in data and algorithms, and providing transparent reporting on AI-related decisions. This auditing of Metassist would help identify and mitigate risks, ensuring that the technology operates within ethical boundaries. By fostering collaboration among key stakeholders, ranging from data scientists to legal and compliance teams, the Council ensures that AI governance is aligned with health tech's values and strategic objectives, ultimately safeguarding both innovation and accountability. Speaking of innovation, let's move on to our next step, fairness and innovation. The foundation of fairness lies in diverse data sets. To ensure that Metassist generates accurate, unbiased outcomes, it's crucial that the data used to train these systems represents a wide range of demographics. Why? Because without diversity in data, AI models can easily perpetuate existing societal biases, leading to harmful results, especially in the medical industry. For example, an AI trained only on data from a specific group could misinterpret medical imaging, leading to unfair or inaccurate diagnoses. By prioritizing diversity in the data we collect, we are laying the groundwork for innovation that benefits everybody, not just a select group. Building on these data sets, the next layer of our pyramid is data collection and usage. It's not simply enough to collect data from diverse sources, we also need to make sure that the data is handled responsibly, as mentioned in guiding principles. This would involve health tech teams needing to work closely with engineers to ensure that the data fed into Medicist is accurate, relevant, and processed in a way that aligns with the ethical standards of the AI Governing Council. We would also need to conduct regular privacy risk assessments and monitor how data flows through these systems. And these checks would allow Medicist to flag potential issues early and ensure that data usage is compliant with legal and ethical standards. The top tier of the pyramid is bias identification and mitigation, the final but arguably most critical step in ensuring fairness. And despite using diverse datasets and responsible data collection practices, biases can still emerge. So, to effectively identify and mitigate this, Medicist would have to implement a robust system for continuous bias monitoring. This involves deploying specialized bias detection algorithms that analyze AI outputs to flag these potential biases based on various demographic factors. Regular audits would be conducted, examining Medicist over time to ensure that they consistently produce fair and inclusive outcomes. These audits would involve comparing model predictions against baseline metrics to detect any deviations in performance across different demographics. Finally, shield of confidentiality. The foundation of our shield of confidentiality begins with risk appetite, and this concept defines the level and types of data protection risks health tech is willing to accept while pursuing its objectives. Establishing a clear risk appetite would involve defining tolerance levels. Health tech would have to establish specific thresholds for acceptable risks. For example, they may deem that while minor exposure of non-sensitive data is tolerable, any breach involving personally identifiable information must trigger immediate corrective actions. Health tech would have to create a documented risk appetite statement as well, which is in that AI governance framework that would clearly outline their stance on privacy risks. And this statement would be shared across health tech to the governing council and employees using Medicist. Health tech would also have to maintain an updated inventory of all data processing activities. This inventory would detail the types of data collected, the purpose of data collection, and the data lifecycle stages from acquisition to deletion. And a routine process for reviewing and updating documentation like this to reflect any changes in regulation or internal practices would ensure that the documentation remains relevant and effective in supporting these governance efforts. This is especially crucial because as we move to the top of the pyramid with incident response procedures, having specific procedures for responding to access violations would include a clear chain of command in that documentation for reporting incidents. For example, the documentation would include a streamlined reporting mechanism that allows employees to quickly report suspected access violations. This could involve a dedicated hotline, an online reporting system, or a specific email address, ensuring that reporting channels are easily accessible to employees. This would implement a process for assessing reported incidents as well. The assessment would include identifying the type of data involved, the extent of the violation, and the affected parties. Protocols would help prioritize incidents based on risk levels, allowing for efficient resource allocation during the response. Once an incident is reported and assessed, a thorough investigation would be initiated to understand the cause and scope of the access of the violation. It could involve gathering relevant evidence, interviewing affected parties, and documenting the findings. Based on the investigation results, the established council would take immediate steps to mitigate the breach, such as revoking access for compromised accounts or reinforcing security measures as mentioned in the guiding principles. Now, to pass it on to Jorge to recap on the structure of our solution.
Sure, thanks, Jiya. So to briefly go over it one more time, we discussed our solution in a pyramid structure, where you can't move on to the higher level of the pyramid without first addressing the base level of the pyramid. In the same way, we have each section built on the last section. So fairness and innovation is built on our guiding principles, and our shield of confidentiality is built on our fairness and innovation. So let's take a look at the future for this company. We envision the solution because we want the solution to be scalable. Medicist is a large language model, which means that it's going to learn over time. And the way that these models work is that they want to maximize the reward. So in maximizing the reward, which in this case would be the ease at which they return the customer with how they came to a certain diagnosis or how private they made the system, it would increasingly seek to increase its reward, learning from its previous mistakes over time and making the process more efficient. The next thing is that we want this to set a standard, especially when dealing with something as sensitive as our health records. What we see is that consumers are increasingly caring more and more about their privacy in this digitized age. And with health tech making a solution as private and as secure as this, it would give it a competitive advantage in this industry. And finally, operational efficiency, in the sense that this solution is autonomous, meaning less manual labor will be required as time goes on. So to conclude, we were the breakfast buddies. We discussed the solution that involved restructuring Medicist. Then we talked about the three parts of the solution: guiding principles, a fairness and innovation, and a shield of confidentiality. And then we recapped. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and we hope to work again with CROWE in the future.